Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker with Tools. Tonight we're going to be talking about my wish list for the next generation of top tier Dewalt drills and impact drivers. So let's go ahead and get into those on Tinker with Tools. So by now, I'm sure you've seen the leaked images of a new Dewalt top-tier hammer drill and a new top-tier impact driver that have been flooding message boards and various social media sites, giving us a glimpse of what we might see in the next generation of Dewalt top-tier tools. Now, in terms of what we know about these tools, it's very little. Most of the information is quite unsubstantiated at this point, but what I want to do today is take you through both the top offerings in the drill and impact drivers that we currently have from Dewalt, talk about maybe what some of their shortcomings or faults are when it compares to the competition. And then I want to talk about what my wish list is for these new tools when hopefully we get our hands on them later this year. So let's go ahead and dive right in, first with the drills. Now, all the way back in 2015, Dewalt came out with this, which is their DCD 996. And at the time, this was one of the biggest, baddest, most powerful hammer drills on the market. It introduced a 3-speed gearbox to the Dewalt hammer drills, which I really do think sets it apart from a lot of the competition. But like I said, these were released back in 2015 and remained largely unchanged for the better part of 5 or 6 years, while we saw definite improvements from the competition. When Milwaukee came out with their Gen 3 fuel hammer drill, it was noticeably smaller and much more powerful than this drill, and so it just felt like Dewalt was slipping a little bit behind. Now, shortly after, we did get treated with 2 new top models, and I do have one of them here today. This is going to be the Dewalt FlexFold Advantage, or model DCD 999. Now, if you look at these 2 drills side by side, they are the exact same outer shell, just with some different colorings on them. This one still retains the familiar 3-speed gearbox, but we do start to get some additional claims of power when paired with the right battery. As I mentioned, this is the FlexFold Advantage. It's designed to be used with the FlexVolt batteries. Now, this is still a 20-volt tool, but the FlexFold Advantage line did allow those tools to take advantage of the more potential draw from these larger, more powerful batteries. Like always, Dewalt doesn't do anything just simple and clear. They also, over at Lowe's, gave us the Power Detect drill, which is model DCD 998. Now, depending on which testing you see, the 998 is actually seen to be a little bit more potent than maybe even the FlexFold Advantage, and its battery of choice is going to be the 8 amp hour XR battery. Now, both of these drills do offer a nice bump in power, and honestly, power-wise, they're quite competitive with the current top-tier drills from a lot of different brands. But what exactly are the shortcomings with these tools? The biggest and most glaring omission from these tools is going to be that of some additional safety features in anti-kickback, anti-rotation, whatever you want to call it. DeWalt's top drills do not have any of that, and so you simply are going to rely on the auxiliary handle for some added protection. Across the marketplace, you're going to see this type of protection on just about every top-tier hammer drill in the market today, and so it is a glaring omission in terms of safety and protecting the user and the tool. That is something that I do want to see on the next model. Now, the next one, it is, in my opinion, a little bit less important, but it would be nice to see a reduction in size. The current drills are both over 8 inches in length, so we do want to see a reduction in size. One last thing that I'd like to see cleared up with the newer generation of drills would just be some clarity in their lineup. When it comes to DeWalt's performance claims, there really is no clarity to them. When you have the DCD 998, they claim that it's going to make 29% more power when paired with the right battery than the DCD 996 on a 5 amp hour battery. Now, the FlexFold Advantage is even more obscure because it basically just claims that it'll get 42% more power when paired with the 6 amp hour FlexVolt battery compared to itself on other batteries. DeWalt for years has not really done a great job stating what the claims are in terms of their drill performance. Now, what do we know about this new model? We have seen it going as a Dewalt DCD 1007. Now, I think they really missed the mark in just calling it the Dewalt DCD 007, but maybe there's some trademark infringement that they were worried about there. A lot of the performance figures that we have seen list that the RPMs and the beats per minute and all those things with the hammer drill are going to be largely unchanged from the top tier models that we currently have. We don't have a claimed unit watt out, which is what Dewalt uses to measure their performance yet, so I'd be shocked if we don't see an improvement on that tool over what we've been getting with these other ones, but it's not like the Power Detect or the FlexFold Advantage are really falling behind in terms of power, so I don't necessarily expect to see huge gains in the torque or power department. One thing that we can see from the pictures, though, is that it is going to be a reduction in overall length from how it compares to these 2 drills. I don't think it'll get down all the way to that 7-inch mark, but I think you're going to be seeing something maybe in the 7.5-inch mark, which is going to be a nice little reduction, although we do see it kind of gaining a little bit of size in the actual actual body of the tool. It gets shorter, but it gets a little bit bigger. Now, the next thing I wanted to see was going to be some additional safety protection. I've seen a couple of different clips of video with what appears to be a light on the base of the tool that activates when it does kind of trip that anti-rotation protection. That's not necessarily what I've seen on every image of these leaked images, but then even on some of the other leaked product pages with other vendors, we have seen them claim to have some anti-rotation protection. So I do expect that we are going to get some of that safety protection in with it in the new generation. Now, the last thing is for clarity. Overseas, Dewalt has had clarity in their lineup for quite some time. There is no DCD power detect that is going to be marketed and sold overseas. You're just going to have the FlexFold Advantage. And so I hope that we would get that here, but honestly, I'm not going to hold my breath. Now, when it comes to the next topic, which is going to be impact drivers, about at the same time as the 996 came out, we were treated to the DCD 887, which for a number of years was going to be the top impact at Dewalt. It had the highest torque figures, the highest performance figures. It was the top impact driver. A couple of years later, Dewalt gave us this, which is going to be modeled DCF 850, or the atomic impact driver in the United States. But overseas, this was an XR badge tool. And so when it came out and we saw similar specs, in fact, identical specs to that of the DCD 887, felt a little bit strange. Okay, we got our reduction in size, but performance-wise, it was identical to that of the 887, and in performance testing, it performed very similar to that tool. Just felt like a little bit more of the same, just a nice, smaller, more compact package. We also had this come out, which is the ultimate sleeper impact driver, the DCF 840. In a lot of performance testing, except for maybe in the most torque-intensive tasks, this DCF 840 typically will outperform the DCF 850. It's not as short by any means, but it is a little bit more slender in the body, so even though the performance claims are significantly reduced from that of the DCF 850, it actually feels like maybe they understated the performance of this model a little bit. We did finally get a new XR impact driver here in the US, the DCF 845, and if you look at these two, you're going to see a lot of similarities. Now, it has the same torque claim figures as that of the 850 and the 887. You did finally get a little bit more speed on those, and if I'm being honest, this is the nicest Dewalt impact driver in my opinion right now, but that doesn't mean that it necessarily sets itself apart from all the different offerings that we had in Dewalt impact drivers. It honestly just felt underwhelming because it felt like it was more the same, and the product lineup just got downright confusing, with this being an atomic in the States, this being unbadged, pretty much just a sleeper, and then this being something with a 3-speed selector, but the performance really wasn't that much better than that of the 840. Well, we finally have seen leaked images of a new impact driver that is going to be the DCF 860, and this one finally seems like perhaps it is going to be the true successor to the 887 and a new top-tier impact driver. But what exactly is missing from these impact drivers that makes it so we need a new impact driver? In my opinion, premium impact drivers go one of two possible routes. They're either powerful enough and really nice to use, I'm looking straight at you, Makita, or you go the route of, say, Milwaukee and Flex, and you just pack a ton of power and it's nice enough to use. With Dewalt, we're not necessarily getting either one of those. They are not as nice to use as the Makita impact drivers. They're fine, but they're just not as great as Makita, and they're not going to be nearly as powerful as what we're seeing from the competition like Milwaukee and Flex. Now, we've seen Dewalt have some incredible success with their impact wrenches, whether it's going to be the compact model or moving up to the mid torque or the high torque. Those impact wrenches are some of the most powerful that are on the market today. We're just not seeing that from the impact drivers. So then in terms of performance claims with this new DCF 860, what exactly are we seeing that we have not been getting from the current generation of impact driver? It's not as short and stubby as the 850, does certainly seem to be more of a substantial impact driver in the size of it than the slender 840 or the 845. So I think that is going to be significant because it's potentially leading to more power. Now, this is backed up with some torque claims that are claiming as much as 2,500 inch-pounds of torque. Now, none of that is confirmed at this point by Dewalt, but if they do manage to put those performance figures in there, I would expect a substantial increase in performance in this impact driver, and certainly something that I could see being competitive as a true flagship model. Honestly, it's what we've been expecting or hoping for a number of years. Now, in addition to what else we get, they did alter the lights on the front of a little bit. They're still going to have kind of 3 sections of LEDs, but they are bigger. We do get the ability to turn on those LEDs for up to 20 minutes. So it's going to be very similar to what we get from the drills, where you can kind of make that a work light almost. Now, the other improvement that we have seen on the leaked images is going to be getting rid of potentially this 3-speed control switch that we've seen on several models of impact drivers now, and moving to the style of selector switch that we are seeing on their newer impact wrenches. So overall, if we get most of the things that we can see and we do have some increased performance, I definitely think that the 860 is going to be a nice step in the right direction. And then maybe this 845 becomes more like the compact XR, almost like we have the DCD 800 or 805 compact drills. Now, as a bonus to this, we've also seen a leaked image of a new quiet hydraulic impact driver, much like what we've seen from Milwaukee Surge or the Makita that is a little bit older now. It's not going to replace the need for an impact driver, but for some people's workloads, it might be sufficient to do most of the tasks. Now, if you are a Milwaukee fan, I think that this is great news for you and great news for Dewalt fans alike. Having competition in this line of tools is going to push Milwaukee to continue to improve their tools. Plus, who knows, maybe Dewalt's going to just bring out something that is substantially better than that of the Surge, and then we kind of win that way as well by just having an overall better tool. Overall, we don't know as much about this 870, but hopefully we get to see that unveiled at roughly the same time as we get these other tools. Now, I don't have any dates on when these tools might be potentially released. Once again, this is all just speculation, but I think we have enough clarity on these images coming from several different sources that we can hopefully start to see that potentially this release is quite imminent, even maybe this year. For those of you who aren't aware, right now is DeWalt's 100th anniversary, which they seem to be making a fairly large deal about on the DeWalt UK site with special edition tools and stuff, but we're not necessarily seeing as much of that celebration here in the US. Hopefully they do want to make a big splash, and so we see these tools later this year, because I think it would be quite exciting to have some new releases from DeWalt. Now, if you have any questions about any of the tools that we've talked about today, both the present ones and maybe the speculation on the future ones, go ahead and leave them down below. I can't promise I'm going to have answers on the new tools specifically. Let me know what you want to see in these new tools, and we'll see if it comes true when we get our hands on them, hopefully later this year. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and make sure you turn on notifications so you get notified when I put out a new video. As always, thank you for the continued support, and until next time, I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.